Hello students, this is a short video tutorial to walk over a recursive solution. As you know, recursive can sometimes be a tricky concept. It's not the same as iteration. It's not the same as a for loop or a while loop. This is a situation in which a function calls itself. So for example here, a function checksame calls itself in order to solve a problem that requires repetition. There are two key things about recursion. The first thing is that there needs to be, when a function calls itself, there needs to be an exit plan. So the first thing is we need an exit plan. The second thing is when the function calls itself, it actually calls it with the smaller case. So the second thing about recursion is that it deals with a smaller case. And by smaller case, I mean that it calls the function, but the parameters that are given to it are smaller parameters than the initial call. So here is a very similar example to the one that you had, in which checksame method, it checks if the two strings are the same. Now, what we can do is, even before we call the checksame method, we can have a main program check if the two strings are of the same length or not. If they are not of the same length, we can straight away, no need to jump into any method called a recursion, we can indicate that they are not the same because the lengths are not the same. If they are the same, then we call the method and pass the strings a, b to it. Now, the way the recursive call works is it takes the input. So when the input comes here, for example, when it comes here, a is equal to hello, and b is also equal to hello, for example. Let's take the case when the two parameters are exactly the same. Now, when the first recursive call comes in here, it checks to see if the length of the strings are equal to 0, which means, have I reached a situation where I have finished comparing all the characters? And if I finished comparing all the characters, and if the strings are of the same size, it means I have been successful in comparing the characters, and I can return true. This is the first exit case, when you're done with all the comparison of the characters. So what is the comparison of characters? You compare H with H, E with E, L with L, L with L, and O with O. So this means you're done with all of that, and what you're left with here is the empty string, and this basically means you've successfully compared, and each character was a match. Now, so you return true. If this is not the case, then what we do is we come here. I'm actually going to move this. I'm going to move this here. So what I'm going to do is we also compare. Now remember, we had the two strings hello and hello. So we compare the first character of the string with the first character of the second string. If they're not the same, we return with a false. Now we know that even if all the characters were the same, and we reached the last comparison, and this was a G instead of an O, then the two word strings are not the same. Or somewhere in the middle, this was an E, but this was a G, then we don't even need to continue the comparison, because we know that the first instance, when there is not a match, indicates that the two strings are not the same. So these are the two exit cases of the recursion. If we find that the two characters are the same, then we shorten the string because we want to go to the smaller case of the recursion. So we create a substring using the string substring string method starting at position 1, which means, as you know, a string is an array of characters. So this is 2, 3, and 4. So we create a substring, i.e. eliminate the first two characters which have been successfully compared, and pass the shorter string to the second to the recursive call. However, because our first comparison was successful, we returned true and know that we are not actually finally returning from here. This return and this return are different from this return. This return is a kind of a saved return, and the final return will only happen when all of this is, all of the recursion is done, i.e. we have gone deeper and deeper and deeper into the recursion till we actually exit, and then all of those values will just get placed here, and we will AND that logical expression and give a final return. So if, for example, in the second step, this checks same returns a false, we will be in a situation where, let's say we have E and G. So this string, when passed to the second step of the second level of the recursion, will actually return a false because E is not equal to G, and then here we will have true and false. Now true and false is false, and the final return will happen with the false, right? And that's what will be returned out of the method. Now, there's one thing that you would also need to do is put a dummy return true here in the end, because C++ wants to be sure if you have if-else's, you are actually able to return out of a method. This is an inconsequential return, and it's just something that we need to put in as a formality. But this is how comparing the same string works with recursion. In your example, what you would need to do is what I've put in the comments. Because we are now comparing if one string is the reverse of the other, we're actually comparing not, in this case, what we would compare is we would compare if to upper A0, this is what we would compare, is not, oh, let me write that down. If 2 upper of A0 is not equal to 2 upper of B, but not 0, because you're looking at the last character. The last character is obtained by doing B dot length, B of B dot length minus 1. So this is the element that you would be comparing. And when you shorten the string, right, this is for the reverse method, or reverse. And this is what you would be doing for reverse. And here when you, for reverse. And here when you shorten the string, the first string gets the first character eliminated, so that the shortest string starts from position 1. But for the second string, we actually have to eliminate the last character. Therefore, we start from 1, but we stop at B dot length minus 1. And this we take only B dot length minus 1 character. So this one, let me just put this here. This is the length of the string. The length of the string that we are interested in. So starting from 0, we take length minus 1, so just basically eliminating the last character. When you do not have the second parameter here, this just means start with 1 and take all the characters up to the end of the string. This one is start here and take these many characters. So that's how you would need to tweak this toSame method to convert it into an isReverse method. So convert from checking if strings are the same to checking if strings are reverse of each other. And I will be posting this code here as well.